last night's draft in your head? Oh, man. I love this song.
So you're telling me that you got in Jeff's head so bad that you got a song in his head so bad that it ruined the end of his last season?
I don't know what you say. It ruined the end of the season.
It affected things.
I think it might have
it got in his head in a way that this is outside the box here. This is not your normal.
No.
This is not your normal trash talking here.
Outside the, I think it's on par. Hold on. Good morning, Fantasy Baseball Advocates in the house, back in action. Jason,
we're the Fantasy Baseball Advocates. We're back in action, guys. We had planned to do a whole outfield podcast today, but we just
have to wait till next week.
It's gonna have to wait till next week, guys, because the Fantasy Forever League just happened, guys.
Wow,
the Fantasy Forever League, and we haven't talked much about the Fantasy Forever League in our podcast, and that's all going to change this spring, Jason. That's all going to change this year. We're going to be talking about both of our leagues because, like, it's such a big part of what we do, and it's more than that. Like, we're fans of baseball and fantasy baseball beyond that, and we're going to talk about all those things this year, but we're going to talk about our leagues, and the Fantasy Forever League deserves its due. It's another, you are new to the league. Welcome.
Thank you.
And I know everyone welcomes you with open arms the same way that I do, and loves you already, and your style, and your just the fireworks that comes with having Jason call in the league. So welcome. This is a very competitive league. I would say quite a bit like our other one, but the stakes are a little bit higher. It's just a different crowd and a different clientele. It's people that are new to me as well. I mean, this is my third year in the league. I'm getting to know these people and really appreciate everything they bring to the table. So for you guys listening, okay?
Yeah.
We're talking about a 16 team head-to-head categories league. We play with
The
hits,
baseline
runs.
The baseline 5x5 stats with hits, doubles plus triples,
yes,
and OPS added offensively, and then quality starts, holds, and earned runs as negative on the pitching side, which really does change things.
Yeah. And we moved our league to Fantrax this year. For the first time, we're using Fantrax instead of Yahoo. For the first time in my, since 2009 or 8, 7, whenever I started doing fantasy baseball, this is the first time I'm using a different site. So this is new for me.
Yeah, so without further ado, we're basically just going to kind of recap our draft last night just a little bit. Just to show you, so like this draft was so unique, and each draft anybody ever does is unique. But when you're talking about 16 teams with 25-man rosters, you're at 400 players.
Yeah,
and obviously
we should say that in this league we have 6 keepers. So basically, the top 96 players are off the board. Although, of course, if you think about a league like this, some people are going to have more top 100 players than others. So there's going to be guys at the top of this list
sprinkled in there.
Right. There's going to be some gifts. And Jeff Joint Chiefs of Staff, baseball club released a lot of gifts into the draft. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's not talk about most people in specifics, but let's talk about so basically, like what you said, is in this particular draft, aside from, a handful of names, you basically take away the top 100, and you're looking at the player pool for this draft of being guys from an ADP 100 through 400. But here's the funny thing is, specific to your league, I found that no matter what format I play on, Yahoo, Fantrax, if I look at NFBC ADP, if I look at CBS Sports ADP, if I look at ATC projections, all the Fangraph tools, Steamer, I find those more helpful because you can customize them to our league. But what I'd like to say is all of them, once you get past ADP 250, you can throw ADP out the window no matter what. And here's the thing. When you start getting a player pool of 400 players deep, rankings don't matter because these systems, a lot of times, I don't want to say they don't know how to rank players, but like, it's comical when you find your late round sleepers in these deep leagues. They may have a ranking of like over 1,000. That's just because they're a player name in the database that they just, for whatever reason, got slighted. Maybe opportunity isn't projected to be there for them.
Yeah.
But maybe from a realistic angle, we know that they're fighting for a spot, and they say they win a spot. All of a sudden, that makes the difference of being a pre-ranked 1,000 player versus being a pre-ranked 300 player. So you got to pay attention to that stuff and understand. Take rankings and ADP with a grain of salt.
And there's sort of sometimes with the websites, there's like a skew towards pitching that sort of clouds the rankings and what you're seeing, and that's part of the story of this draft too. Is like there are certain players that, and I don't know, I guess part of it maybe is because we're drafting early this year with this league, but Fantrax ADPs were different than some of the other websites. And it's interesting, like guys like Luke Rayleigh had a ADP on Fantrax of like 330 or something like that, and that's a guy who was drafted in like round 20 of our league, and damn it, I missed out on Luke Rayleigh. But anyways, you can tell I'm a little
so that's cool. So I'm a little fun with this podcast. So like Jay, like you,
but what were you gonna say?
No, what I was gonna say with this podcast, that draft last night was fun. And I gotta say, like, there was some big time values, and there was some big time like questionable picks, which there always will be.
There always will be.
Is there anything that stands out to you about maybe the top 2 rounds that really surprised you, maybe for the good or for the bad, that maybe shaped the way the rest of the draft went, at least in the beginning?
Sure. I don't. We were talking about this just a minute ago. Like, I don't think there was any, like, huge shocks. I mean, but it was definitely, like, I had to, reorient myself to, like, in this league, like, definitely my first draft, like, couple seasons ago is, like, kind of, like, cemented in my mind. Like, I'll never forget how it went because I realized, like, with this league that, like, when you start off there at pick 97 or whatever, like, after these 6 keepers, like, guys just tend to take their guys in this league, and they take their top, picks that they've kind of identified that they really want to walk away with, and they're leaving some value on the table for other people to come and scoop up. So, and, Wyatt Langford, who wasn't kept by anyone's team, was drafted.
He wasn't available.
He wasn't available
in any player pool,
right?
At least not on Fantrax or
Yahoo. Or he would have been, I'm sure. Yeah. But so right off the bat, we're starting with the top prospect in the draft off the board, number 1. Boom, gone.
Let's go through the first round.
Yeah, let's look through
list
the first
these
round.
Names and then talk about it in context of our league. And
Josh Hader was a shock. Josh Hader going number 3 was a shock. Anyways, let's go through the first round.
No, it's okay.
So, Wyatt Langford.
Wyatt Langford went number 1. Yoshinobu Yamamoto went number 2. Josh Hader went number 3. Evan Carter went number 4. Aaron Nola went number 5. That was the top 5. So I'm gonna stop there. I was picking 6. I had more options than I thought I was going to have. At 6, I could have taken Cole Reagans. Mm-hmm. I could have taken. I ended up taking who I wanted all along, which was Josh Lowe.
Yeah.
But I also could have taken. let's see here. I could have justified taking Zach Eflin.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't have taken Zach Eflin for Cole Reagan. Really, I was choosing between Josh Lowe and Cole Reagans, but I was surprised to have that choice. And to be honest with you, seeing Aaron Nola slip to 5th shocked me, but I think that's because the biggest surprise in the top 5 is back to Josh Hader with there.
Yeah, what
I don't
there?
know what to make of that because Josh Hader is an exceptional closer and has been for quite some time.
Which
what's
team
the
is
difference?
this? Williamson? Because
I think that's Silky.
Okay, it's Silky. Okay, because I was asking them like days ago, like to put their team names on there, but now by process of elimination, this is Silky. So man, I don't know. I mean, Silky was there. Silky was present, right? That was his pick. That was it.
Yeah.
He took one of the top closers off the board.
But that's the thing. There's so many other top closers available.
There are, and they went. A lot of them went. I feel like around the first few, like right around where you would think they would. Bednar fell a little bit, and I scooped him up. I know he's hurt right now, but I got one of the top like closers left on the board. And then after I picked Bednar, like a few other closers went off the board right after that, which I guess I could have taken one of the healthy ones. But anyways, let's go through the rest of the first round. You know, The Finest really has a penchant for like his type of talent. And I don't know, some of it's young talent. He reminds me of Kicking Dirt in our other league. Like, I think like Jacob has he's got a real penchant for a certain type of talent, and he took Jesus Luzardo, which no qualms with.
No.
Am I skipping over something important in these first?
No. I feel like there was
went
a
a little
lot
bit out of order. These other players.
Josh Hader was the monkey wrench. Like,
yeah, that's where I started feeling like, what other shock at all am I about to experience before I have to pick or after? So
I think
it definitely started to like put uncertainty in my mind about what was about to happen for the next couple rounds. But ultimately, it's a good thing, and you start thinking, oh my God, like more and more guys are falling, right? Like my next picks, there's going to be a different group available that I thought maybe wouldn't be available. So it definitely shook me a little bit.
I feel like Yandy Diaz at 11 and Lane Thomas at 10 was not good values there. I feel like they're both useful players, but they both could have easily dropped and been drafted a lot later.
I think Lane
outside
Thomas,
of this round.
right? You're going to have people that are really high on Lane Thomas, and who, I guess, just to say, Spencer Steer went after Jesus Luzardo, and before these two guys, Lane Thomas and Yandy Diaz. But I feel like some people, Lane Thomas is still young. He flashed. He had like you said, it was the first half, right, that he was excellent. He fell off.
So Lane Thomas had a great first half to 2021.
And
Lane Thomas has been a useful player
right,
for several years, but
yes.
he is not. He's not been a top echelon fantasy player ever. He's someone that's more valuable in deep leagues such as ours than shallow leagues. He's someone with a high floor, and you know what you're going to get, kind of. So I don't know. I know some people pick him for 20 home runs, 20 steals, and a solid batting average, high OPS.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that he's going to replicate that. I feel like at this point, you at least got a floor of a 15 player.
Is he going to be the number 3 hitter in Washington? Is he that type of, or is he going to be somewhere else?
No.
Where are we going to?
I don't know. He could hit second.
I don't know. Second?
Well, going on behind me, pull that roster up. I can't obviously pull it up right now.
It's okay. I got you.
But I just feel like there was some better values. Like
he's projected to bat second behind C.J. Abrams and in front of Joey Gallo and Joey Meneses, which Joey Gallo batting third. Really, guys?
This is
really Roto Champ.
Go to roster resource,
dude. This is you got to let me do some of the work for myself. You know what I mean? Like your tools. I know you use the best tools, but there's something to be said for filling in the blanks and looking at RotoChamp and deciding if you think that's really how the lineup's going to look.
It is.
It helps you think it through. So some of my resources are a little more rudimentary in your view, Jason, but there's a lot of things going on in here in this brain that you don't know about. So listen. Yandy Diaz.
Yeah. How do you feel
11th off the board. I'm not super high on him. I understand like putting him in one of your corner infield spots. He's eligible at both first base and third base. I just don't. I have never been fully swayed to believing that Yandy Diaz has fixed his launch angle problem. I don't think he ever will, so I don't believe that he's going to hit a good amount of home runs. Like, I just don't. It's never been solidified in my mind that he's fundamentally changed his scouting report of he hits the ball very hard but not in the air. And I just don't. I have not been
such
convinced.
a history of driving the ball into the ground.
Right.
So he changed his launch angle last year to
the tune of what?
Better
Almost
result,
20
more
home
power.
runs? Was he
But
over
the question is he going to replicate
That's what
that?
I'm saying. And I have not been swayed. I have not seen enough to think. And how old is he now? So I just, everything all said and done, like, it wouldn't be one of my, but for a team that wants to construct an offensive lineup to win right now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it. Now, were there better values there? Like, yeah, probably. And you passed up on Christian Walker to draft Yandy Diaz, which I probably don't agree with. Would you?
No, I mean, obviously Christian Walker fell into my lap with the second to last pick in the first round.
So after Yandy Diaz, Zach Eflin, Xander Bogaerts, Justin Steele, Christian Walker.
Xander Bogaerts was a good pick. That was a good value.
I really started honing in on Bogaerts in the last few days before the draft and thinking,
well, he's gonna be second and shortstop eligible after a week of the season because he's going to play second base and he's already got shortstop eligibility. And I
could
feel
not
like
pass up on Zach Eflin though. Right
No. You made a great pick. So again, the Josh Hader thing going in the top 5 left us with Zach Eflin and Christian Walker both falling outside the top 10. And I felt like that was insane value. You were one of them that got it. I got Christian Walker. But you were able to start. Yeah, Justin Steele falling to 14.
That's Chuck's like ace pretty much. I feel like I'm putting together. Like this is, and he has every reason to think like he's got the strikeout potential to, hopefully the other numbers, the peripheral stats, end up being pretty good. But he's got every reason to think like that's his like high strikeout guy, and at the top of his rotation.
Yeah, so
near the top, if not at the top. And then Chad was thrilled to get Jordan Walker, I think, right there at the end of this round.
So Jordan Walker, another high upside player. So that's something else to talk about. In this round alone, you got Wyatt Langford, Evan Carter, Jordan Walker.
It's
I'd
like
be curious
Cole
to see
Reagans
where
has left
Junior
the
Caminero
prospect.
went to.
He's no longer, but there's a lot of like questions, I guess, like that people want to have answered in their minds. Like I know that some of the fantasy baseball community is like thinking like I've heard some people, with the opinion of like, okay, why did he get traded in the first place? The guy is like, has this flashes, this great, season, and then it's like, are we gonna regress?
A lot of people share that same pessimism, but I will say this:
I had to be an optimist here, which I'm typically pessimistic in my thinking, but I had to shed
prior
that
to March 1st
and just let that go.
And the first outing after an off season,
looks good.
He hits 101.
Yep.
Who does that without ramping up?
I know.
And then hitting a velocity and sitting there is two different things. But
And
still, the fact to be able to hit 101 in late February, this guy's got a 5-pitch mix that they're all plus pitches. He developed this. The biggest difference with him last year was the development of his slider as a strikeout pitch. Like, he's already got, the four-seamer and other high-rated secondaries, but he added that slider. And once he did that, he took off. Now, he had worked, I believe, I don't know if he had worked with Driveline, or he worked with one of those things in the offseason prior to last year. And you saw signs when he was breaking in with the Rangers last year. He had a cameo, I think, start, and he pitched mostly out of the bullpen, and he was pitching well. But, he actually, at one point in time, was a highly rated prospect. He went and had Tommy John. People like to say he had Tommy John twice, but let it be known that while he had Tommy John twice, the second one was to fix the
it was a revision.
First was a revision of the first procedure because it wasn't done as
which typically, you're coming, like we say, with besides all these other pitching issues, really with Tommy John, you're coming back better, fans, listeners. You're typically, this is making you a better pitcher and baseball player. So, we all, health's not a given, right? But it's like, typically you're coming back better after your recovery period. Besides the fact of, and we can talk about this with some of these other guys, of like your innings, how many innings you're going to throw this year, right? So there's a couple other guys that, like Boz, Shane Boz and other guys that have come back from injury and they're healthy now, or they're getting there, they're rehabbing, they're getting ready, game ready, but they're not going to throw as many innings this year in 2024. So that, but I forget what else I was going to say about him, but and with Jordan Walker, there was other guys that I had my eye on Jordan Walker a lot going into this draft, but I decided to stay away from it because I felt like there were safer options on offense for me that I could find later. So I decided to stay away from that. Not that I would have taken him with the 12th pick. Like, I definitely had to take the value that was there. And then I didn't pick again until pick 119. And I figured he probably wouldn't be there. If he was there at 119, I would have been thinking real hard about it. So after...
a value I really liked, I was peeking ahead in the next two rounds.
Christopher Morel was kind of a shock to me, too.
Yeah, I was, too.
It probably shouldn't be.
I don't think he should have gone as high as he
Probably not,
went.
but I see where Chad is coming from here, and I look at his roster, and I think, Christopher Morel as your starting baseman, or second baseman, I'm looking at that on-base percentage. Is it going to be 350? Is he going to have a 350 on-base percentage, hitting at the top of the order? Christopher Morel is like, for those of you that haven't watched him hit, he's a disciplined hit. I mean, he is the best. He's one of the best combinations of discipline and just swing away and just aggressiveness that you can have. So I feel like I understand his potential in a way. I didn't see him going like this early, but
Christopher Morel scares me, to be honest, because the reason he scares me is because he's like
swinging out of his shoes. Javier Baez meets plate discipline.
Okay,
to me.
So
that's
you say Javier Baez. I don't want to put that onus on.
Okay, that's pretty
even
extreme.
Though Baez had some. No, Baez had some great season.
Yeah.
But I do feel like you're going somewhere with that. I think he is a great real life utility player, kind of like the modern day Ben Zobrist, right?
Yeah.
But I also feel like
for
he's
a young
got
guy,
a lot of
showed a lot of
swing and miss
composure
to his game.
Okay.
And I can see a scenario where things go south for him in a hurry. Let's say the Cubs move Cody Bellinger to first base to bring in Pete Carroll Armstrong, right? And play him in center field. And then you got Michael Busch there. Well, you got to play him somewhere, and while his defense is great, you traded him for his bat, so he's probably DHing. And then so Christopher Romero really has to break in at third base,
Trying to
or
remember,
he's
like,
going
how
to
many
be
bats
relegated
he-
to that super utility.
Right.
Well, which he'll still get 500 at bats that way. But I feel like Christopher Morel is like a better real life trade chip for the Cubs to improve. And they've been trying to trade him for a while. But I worry as a fantasy player, he's limited upside wise. I feel like. So that's why I just question the. I see the value.
the at bats, because we're in round 2 and we're in a round.
Well, it's a matter
pick
of
number-
who went after him. If
Paul
you look,
Skeens went really high in the draft, which that also threw me off. So again,
he's got his believers, and
he does,
the guy
and-
who took him,
and
Jeff, is one of them.
There's nothing. I don't see anything necessarily wrong with it. I just did not see him going that early at all. I thought there'd be like the top 150, kind of, this year type of players go off the board before we saw Paul Skeens go off the board. But I totally get it. For some of these guys, this is it. This is when you grab your high level prospects, and you can't wait. So I get it.
I feel like Junior Caminero going at the
Pasquantino
top
at
of
116.
round 9.
Yeah. Okay, we'll get there.
Pasquantino's-
Let's get there. So Pasquantino went higher than I expected as well, which
He was on my radar.
Sure.
Actually, him and Josh Naylor, who you ended up getting as
Yes.
your utility, were on my radar.
Yes.
I fully anticipated. I started at pick 102, had
He's-
111, and then went to 123. I was looking for a first baseman at 123, and I had 3 people I was looking at. I was looking at Josh Naylor, Benny Pasquantino, and Spencer Torkelson. And in my mind, while I felt like Torkelson had the most power, the park factor and the fact that his batting average is going to be
right, 230.
230 to 240,
Yeah.
I didn't like
Yeah.
because I've already got Kyle Schwarber on my team.
Yes. You can only have so many of those.
Yeah,
And
but
Pasquantino.
it's not horrible. So I put Pasquantino ahead because even though he got hurt last year, if you look at his prospect numbers, he's a high average hitter. So I feel like Pasquantino is a good bet as long as
and
he
high
stays
OPS.
healthy.
We play
To have
OPS in
like
our
a
league, guys. So
270 average with an 800 plus OPS.
absolutely.
With 25 home runs
And if the
like
power
90
comes, that's what I'm
RBIs.
saying, with him and Naylor. If the power comes, you're talking about
But-
an OPS approaching 900.
But here's the thing,
possibly.
Jay.
I mean, this is
had
best
put-
case scenario. But
Yeah, I had put Josh Naylor
That's
ahead
what
of
we
both
like.
of them because Josh Naylor, while he's the one that of the 3 that's limited home run wise, he is an RBI machine.
I'll take 31
Hitting-
doubles and 17 home
a
runs.
doubles
and an
machine,
OPS of-
average and OPS monster. But dude, Christian Walker fell in my lap
I know,
at
I
111, which took first base out of the picture.
Well, that's the thing. I already had Matt Olson, and then I drafted Josh Naylor to be my utility guy. So then it's and then I ended up later on taking Eloy Jimenez, which was kind of I didn't know where else to go with that pick. So I've got kind of another guy who could be a utility player. I mean, because I have another right fielder as well. So, but anyways, Pasquantino. Then Will Smith goes at 117.
That's a value.
Heck yeah, value. Will Smith,
That's
what,
big
ADP
value.
in the 80s right now?
Yeah.
Something like that. And he went 117. Emmanuel Clase at 118. It's not my pick, but I totally get it. He's right up there, one of the first closers that should go off the board. And Jacob had the ability to do that. I took Gleyber Torres at 119, another value that I just couldn't pass up on.
So, did you see him? Sorry, I gotta say it. Did you see Jacob drafted 5 or 6 closers?
Yeah, he's got a ton. He's got
Is he gonna-
basically 5 right now because he's got 4, and then
You know
he's got
another
2
guy
other
who has,
guys with save that are going to probably get double digits.
You know another guy that had him in Dallas. Dallas took 5 closers too.
It makes me be like, why even try to compete with?
Well,
I have
don't.
one. I'm not probably one. I can't.
I mean,
You
not
basically
against them.
can't. I'm not gonna say I'm not
I feel
going
like
to
it's an
because
interesting scenario.
I'm not punting any stat at all. Like I don't. My philosophy is unless you can help it, like don't punt any stat. Like just right away. Like try to compete somehow, and keep trying because you just can. You can't give people a competitive advantage like that all the time.
Yeah.
You can't punt 2 categories at the beginning of the season. Like I'm just not even going to try. Like don't do that unless it's your last resort. But I got Bednar, who, well, now he's hurt with a back injury. But can he get? Hopefully, he can get me 35 saves.
That's right. He's
and I'm gonna do my
Pittsburgh,
best. And I'm gonna hope to find a closer off the waiver wire at some point during this season.
So, okay, for our average listening audience out there, this is just some of how all over the place these unique drafts can be when you're not doing a standard redraft from scratch.
Yes. And I will say that in terms of priorities, okay, in the hierarchy of fantasy baseball, you've got hitting, starting pitching, and relieving pitching. And in relieving pitching, you've got closers. And I know that we've talked about in our relief pitcher podcast.
I tried
it's
to
not
get
just closers,
one
but
of
it's
each
high
category
leverage,
that we covered.
high strikeout, high usage. Those are all very important, and they are important. But in the hierarchy of things, there are closers and there are non-closers. And one philosophy would be you don't draft middle innings relievers or holds guys typically. Now, there are people that break the mold that deserve to be drafted because of their usage, because of their high leverage role, because of their strikeout potential, But I was thinking I might draft one guy who's a reliever, who's not a quote unquote closer, and that's what I did. But I'm not going to draft a bunch of those guys. So my point is, closers deserve to be drafted. I mean, where you take them is a question, but they deserve to be anyways.
So, Jay, I got a question. Do you want to go through the rest of this round and maybe the next round and just kind of skip around?
Yeah.
How do you want to do it?
Then we can skip around. I mean, because let's say that
maybe we should have started with the jump around intro for this show.
The what?
The song jump around.
We should jump around. I think
we'll
do our own version, and we're not going to charge anybody anything for it. This is free entertainment. I'm just trying to fair use, right?
Do you remember the man show with the girls jumping on trampolines back in the day?
What?
You remember the man show with the girls jumping on trampolines?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
Hey, guys,
I know that's
listen. And Apple, if you're listening, we are going to make our own music and, put it at the beginning of the podcast. I've been trying to do fair use this whole time. I play these short clips of content, music at the beginning of our podcast, and they're all relevant. So and we're going to talk about in a little bit why the song Zombie by the Cranberries is relevant to our podcast. Well, we talked about it a little bit.
I feel every selection we choose that's not our music,
they're relevant to our.
They're little snippets of their songs, and they're all relevant to our podcast. And in this case, when you prepare for draft, I don't know about you guys, my draft preparations start the day after the previous season ends. I don't stop.
I take some time off. I have to take.
I might take some time where I have to slow down.
Every off season is different.
But I
for
don't
me.
stop.
Yes, every off season is different for me. This time, I was so put out by the playoffs in our other league. I had to walk away for it. Not even think about it, bro. Because it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. It's one of those heartbreaking to the point that those of you that haven't played fantasy baseball for a long time. Those of you that are new to fantasy baseball, let me just tell you, there's gonna come a time where the end of the season is gonna come, and you're gonna say, "What the hell did I just do? I just spent 22 weeks putting this thing together, trying to win all this other stuff. I totally failed. I made a bunch of mistakes. I'm ready to quit this shit." You know what I'm saying? And I've been through it this many times where I know, I'm not gonna stop. I love this, But there's gonna come a point where you're just gonna want to quit because you made a terrible trade or whatever it is you did, and you're just gonna want to hang up the cleats and be like, "What am I doing?
No.
I suck at this." You know what I mean? So that was last year. That was one of those.
But Jay,
times
that's
for me.
what fuels.
But I know that
season
it
to
does.
get better.
Like, now at this point, 15, 20 years into it, it's like I know, like there's no give up. Like there's too much pride. There's too much at stake.
Oh yeah.
And it's all about the pride of winning, anyways. So
you say 15, 20 years into this? I think you and I have been playing for about the same length of time. My first team I started playing in 2007.
Yeah.
I actually feel like I started late because I was in my mid 20s. Yeah. So that being said,
maybe it was 2007. Anyways.
The landscape has changed so much since then. Anyways.
I've gone, and that was the other thing that kind of crept into my off-season thinking was like, have I gone back to my old ways and my same old mistakes that I made as a young?
I don't think so, because Jay White drafted 10 starting pitchers last night.
With the draft, I think, yes. I think I
What
stuck to...
just happened? That's awesome.
Well, and, Chad... Commissioner Chad said in our Zoom call going into this that, really in this draft, the value was in starting pitching. And he was right to a large extent. And I didn't want to keep repeating what he said because I didn't want to give away my strategy. But I knew I had to walk away with a lot of starting pitchers. And I was able to. And every one of them wasn't my necessarily first choice. But, it's just, I was able to walk away with quite a few. So, yeah, I'm feeling good about that.
So
I'm feeling a little I wanted my hitting bench to be a little bit deeper. And there was a couple guys, like I said, like Luke Raley and others that I missed out on. And I'm jealous. I'm super jealous right now of a couple guys. Tyro Estrada was another one of those guys that I was like, I really wanted him to be...
You're an Estrada guy?
I am. I wanted him to be my shortstop. I love the batting average. I love the OPS. I love the for what
definitely a deep league player, right?
Yes, for what he is, he has great numbers. He's going to hit. He's going to approach hopefully 20 home runs. He's going to steal bases. He's going to hit at the top of his lineup. He's going to play every day, and that's what you're looking for in the top 200 picks. You want a guy that's going to get close to 600 at bats, and he will. He's the man.
So when you look
there in San Francisco, he's going to be at the top of the lineup somewhere, maybe second, but
guys, I hope you understand this is like our soapbox episode. We will get back on track and do some outfield.
Yes.
We still have yet to come our outfield and starting pitcher podcast, and rightfully so. I have got to hone my craft for starting pitching as Jay does his craft for outfielders. We promise we will get those out to you, but we just had to take today and get the Fantasy Forever League in due diligence. That draft last night was just awesome.
It was awesome, dude. It was so much fun.
I got to tell you, after 6 months of preparation almost, I was so worried.
Still can never be prepared for what's about
preparing one thing, and Jeff said it best yesterday.
You have to know who your guys
executing
are. Yes,
is the other part.
Yes.
And I feel like
there's a couple places where I feel like we're, small failures on my part, but you just have to move on from those.
Two players. Let's name 2 players that maybe we missed out on. If you want, I'll start. Or you can.
Well, I just named 2. For me, it was Luke Raley and Tyro Estrada. Luke Raley was on my radar in a big way, and I'm giving it all away now, guys. I'm going to tell. I can't remember who ended up drafting him. I'll look it up in a second. But I'm just putting it all out there. And I told guys, I've got to the point in our league or in fantasy baseball in general, where if I'm really interested in someone, I just tell the other owner, hey man, I'm really interested in this guy. I love this guy. If it feels like there's any potential there, right, for maybe a trade in the future or something, I just tell the guy, man, I missed out on that guy in the draft. I really like this guy. I just want to let you know, I love this guy. I'm interested. Because you never know what could happen, right? So I didn't let Luke Raley's owner know, but let this be the the message. So who I did get before then, which I'm happy about, and is a comparable player, is Jared Kelenic, who hopefully will be even better.
Pick.
Hopefully he'll be even better. And I had him.
Atlanta cleared room for him to be a starting left fielder.
That's what I'm saying, every day.
Now
And
he'll hit like 8th.
And Luke Raley's doing bad in spring, and I don't pay. I don't put tons of stock into spring training, okay? But there does come a time where you're paying attention, and you have to kind of realize, okay, I've seen, and this is why I'm trying to make myself feel a little bit better here, because what you're seeing in spring is like basically the worst of what Luke Raley could be, right? Like a bunch of strikeouts and a really low batting average. So I don't think that's what he's going to be during the regular season. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's playing in a great lineup, at the bottom of a great lineup, but in a great lineup in Seattle. So who are your two guys? And the other, I guess here's the other thing that I'll say. I actually didn't mean to draft Noel V. Marte. If I would have been, I ran out of time and I was scrambling. And if I would have been able to choose, I probably would have picked Luke Raley right there with my last pick. I had some other guys on my list that are probably still on the free agent market, maybe even right now, some of them. And so I'm not going to mention their names because there might be some waiver claims in right now. But that was another one that it wasn't, like, obviously it's great, and I'm going to probably at this point, now I'm like, dude, I don't think I can drop this guy. I'm going to have to keep a spot on my roster and stash him on the bench. And this is hard, guys. For those of you that, this is a 25-man roster. There's no room for... It's going to hurt. If I'm going to hold on to Noel V. Marte for a whole half a season with it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt bad. You know what I'm saying? But I might have to do it at this point. Now I've got a prospect.
Noel V. Marte
not a
falling into your lap that late in the draft, despite his 80-game PED ban now, is kind of a blessing in disguise.
Sure.
You very well could have gotten off by saying, I waited, and he followed me, and I took him. Because you got him in like the second or third to last round. And
it was the 19th round.
Okay, well, you got him late.
Yeah, late.
And a point being...
Basically, when you get to round 20, it's no longer...
Basically, once July 1st comes, you throw the PEDs out the window.
Yeah.
People are looking at him as a sleeper for Rookie of the Year at playing at Cincinnati, starting at third base. And he still has... All of those tools are still there. And obviously, he made some kind of a choice, got caught, and now he's going to pay the circumstances. But I've learned over the last 10 years that
he came to the major leagues, he hit 300 with a 366 or whatever on-base percentage. That's all I need to know.
He's got the prospect pedigree, man. At 19, he was like one of the next best thing. And his start kind of faded a little bit, but he stuck to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this could be a good learning experience for him as a player. And for you, you've got there's no risk.
I think I have the ability. I have the ability to hold on.
Yeah, and most people in that point in the draft will be dropped by July 1st anyway. Right. So the fact that you got him, if he pans out, you got a major steal. If he doesn't, you cut him. No big deal.
I'm not sure what the second half's going to look like, and that's what the articles, all the news right now about him getting suspended, like they bring up the point, and it's a fair point. Well, number one, in real life, he's ineligible for the postseason. So you're laughing about something. I'm sure we'll get to that. He's ineligible for the postseason, which doesn't really mean anything for fantasy, but it does kind of come into question, like what the second half is going to look like. We know the Reds have a loaded infield. We know they signed Candelario to 3 years and like $50 million, something like that.
His value just increased.
Oh, absolutely.
Candelario's steer and Encarnacion Strand's value just increased big time with the loss of Noel V. Marte.
I
was so excited to get him as a bench player.
Encarnacion Strand is another player that I'm not going to say I missed out on, but I'm going to say as we approached the draft and the days leading up to the draft, I realized, okay, pick number 119, Pick number 136 in the draft were the biggest question marks for me. I didn't know who was going to be there. I didn't know who I was going to pick, really. Like, I still had questions. And so I had to start thinking about his name. I had to start inserting Christian Encarnacion Strand's name into the mix and being like, dude, if you're sitting there at 119 or 136, Jay, you need to consider this guy heavily. You know? So who did you miss out on in this draft?
So
who are the names that are just stuck in your head right now?
First of all, this is actually my favorite draft I've had in quite some time. After it was done, I feel like what Jeff was alluding to is preparation then execution. I feel like I executed. I got one player I missed out on. It was late, and then I got one player that I hard targeted all off season and purposefully missed out on. So I'll go with the second one.
Chaz McCormick was that guy for me too I didn't mention. I targeted him all off season and I let him go.
Well, he's got all three outfield positions.
He does. He's eligible.
He's a great
all over the outfield.
But you got Jared Kelenic.
I did.
Who would fill the same role?
I did. That's right.
So you should feel pretty good about
pick
that. 200
or something. Yeah.
So I'm glad you said that because that's kind of why I missed out on this guy. So I hard targeted Luis Arias for a long time because Kyle Schwarber's, for his 40 home run, 100 RBI, 100
you
run
needed to balance
potential,
out the batting average.
His batting average is a negative, but with Luis Arias, the single best batting average standout, period, would more than offset that. But when the draft started and some of those people got taken way before I thought they should have,
including Luis Arias, maybe if you want to. I don't know if you think he went too early or no. No, I think he got taken appropriately, but I'm high on him. I was going to take him where I took Christian Walker. I was ready to take Luis Arias. Shout out to Dallas Judgment Day, who took Luis Arias at 121, and that's right where we left off in our conversation. Chris Bassett, Luis Arias, Spencer Torkelson, Nolan Arenado, Nick Castellanos, William Contreras, Camilo Duvall, Encarnacion Strand. Anthony Volpe goes in the end of the second round. Anyways, back to your players.
No, it's okay.
I feel Luis Arias is one of those guys.
For this league, in a deep league that adds hits and doubles plus triples and OPS, he's a plus in those three stats too. So he's not just a batting average player. In this league, he's a 4-category contributor with the potential to be a 5-category contributor with runs. I see him. He's hitting leadoff. Like, I have no clue why he didn't score 90 runs last year, aside from the fact that the Marlins lineup isn't very good, but it's better.
They got better. I think
that was some bad luck there.
Better. Yeah, I think so too. I think so too.
I missed out on Arias because Christian Walker fell in my lap at the end of the first round, and I could not. A guy I considered with my first pick wasn't my first choice, but definitely considered him as a top 5-ish player, fell to me at 15. I felt like, to me, that's the steal of the first round.
Yeah.
But, so I took the chance. I gambled thinking maybe he comes back around to me with my next pick. He gets taken before me, which is fine because Nolan Arenado fell in my lap at that point, too.
Yep.
But, so I missed out on Luis Arias. But, later on in the fourth round of this draft, which has been like the 10th round, I get Bryson Stott. And Bryson Stott, I think it's going to hit for a 280 average. And he, unlike Arias, is going to steal 20 to 30 bases. So I feel like from my team contact, that actually worked out. Now, the one player I will say I missed completely that I wish I could have gotten, big props out to Jeff, Joint Chiefs of Staff. He took Eric Fetty, the KBO, the failed prospect MLB pitcher, taking his career over to the KBO to resurrect himself, coming back. His ground ball rate is reportedly really worked a factor into his ratios. He reworked his arsenal with the driveline baseball, and he did all that stuff before he even pitched over in the KBO. And if you look at his numbers compared to some others, such as Merrill Kelly, who went over there and did their thing and came back,
he could be the new
he actually performed
Merrill
better.
Kelly.
So, like,
yeah.
And Jeff got him at great value, about a full round before I was going to take him. I actually looked for him. I was like, oh, no, where's he at? He was gone. So,
yeah.
Eric Fetty was the one I wanted late and I missed. But, I can't complain because every draft you're going to have that. I got to say, a couple of standouts I really felt like were good values. Fetty to Jeff. I mean, and he took his guy Paul Skeens. Hopefully that works out for him. But I do feel like,
okay,
looking
so
at
Williamson is Silky. Who's Mike? Which team is this?
that's the stem.
Okay, the stem. Okay, I'm so sorry,
Which
guys.
Jeff so appropriately told me that's Mets spelled backwards. So he's a Mets fan.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
That explains a lot.
Did that just blow your mind?
A little bit. Did it blow your mind when he took Junior Caminero at 129 to start?
Did it blow my mind? No.
Not
I
mind-blowing,
considered
no.
taking
That was the
Caminero
remaining-
where I took Walker.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Arenado. I could have taken Caminero where I took Arenado, he's the only prospect aside from like one other player in the last 10 years that's got an 80 grade power tool by Baseball America.
Yeah.
This guy is the one that I wanted him more than Wyatt Langford, more than Evan Carter, more than I don't want to say more than Jackson Holiday or Jackson Churro, but Junior Caminero is one I wanted because I feel like he's the one whose values not completely surpassed what he could produce this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I was getting ready to ask you is like, what does 2024 look like? Like, are they going to somehow
he plays
make
for
a
the
way
Rays.
for him to?
I think
they're going to pave the way for him somehow. To get
I think he can
playing
force
time.
him. He already was on their playoff roster and played last year. I think he's going to spend April in the minors. And as long as he is a really good April, I think we see him in May. If he just does okay, I still think we see him by Memorial Day. But I think he'll for sure be up by Memorial Day. So he may spend April and May in the minors. We'll see. But he will definitely be up for good, I think, by then.
Anyone else stood out to you that you feel like you kind of missed out on or like you are coveting right now?
Well, by design, I had three stalwarts and one shiny player with my starting pitcher, so I waited. But that was by design, so I don't really feel like I missed out. The closer run happened early, and I would have liked to have gotten but I still feel like I did well because unlike other people, I'm good with Clay Holmes as my number one.
Oh, I am too.
reliever.
I would be too.
And
I
think the Yankees are going to win more games than people like pick. So I honestly,
I would have been fine with Alzolay or Clay Holmes or any of those guys as my first closer, but I got Bednar right before those guys, or right before Alzolay, which
you also got Matt Brash, and if his arm / elbow isn't an issue, I think it is because
I think he's
going
to start on the injured list because he's just now.
But he's building up. He is
like 60, 90
so
feet
talented.
But yeah, absolutely. Like I'm super stoked about that pick and like the strikeout potential there if he's gets healthy, gets right.
So no, I don't. There's no one else I really feel.
And
like
I'll tell you, I mean, we already talked about Josh Naylor, but like he was another guy that like just days before the draft, I started realizing, okay, Josh Naylor is one of the remaining guys who could have like a 900 OPS. Pasquantino is another one of those guys, and he went early. Yeah, something like that. So he was one of those guys that I was like, okay, this is one of the remaining vestiges of like top level hitting that I could come away with. So I started targeting him just days before the draft and being like, okay, like he could be my utility hitter. Then after that, I went with Cal Raleigh and Jorge Soler to give my lineup some power, bro.
Yeah.
I tried to get power, speed, and pitching out of this draft. And run scoring and like speed, like run scoring or whatever. Because then that's something that is a very hard thing. It's a very hard thing to get your leadoff guys, your top of the order guys, your run scoring guys. To get that right is a hard thing, in my opinion, in terms of putting together a fantasy baseball roster. So, Michael Garcia is a guy who I took way late, who I'm hoping he's going to score a lot of runs.
He could.
And his peripherals are good.
Yeah.
His on-base percentage, well above 300.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's got some...
He's not going to hit very many home runs.
He's got some swing and miss, but he's also got some good contact.
Right.
I mean,
he's got the on-base skills.
He gets good, loud contact.
Yes.
In the minors. Now, first his side, and he plays on a team where I think his biggest draw is he's a sleeper to steal 30 bases if he keeps that third base job all year.
Yeah.
He's one of those high ceiling, low floor players. But taking him as late as you did, there's no risk involved.
I had to get a shortstop at that point. I didn't want to wait. If I waited any more, it was going to be like free agent market. So.
I feel like, tell me if you agree, I feel like a good way to wrap this show up in all of our soapboxes here is a draft is just the start of the season, right? Like, what people lose track of is with fantasy baseball, it's a marathon. And really, to be honest, the way some people approach the draft is to just be prepared for the first month. Because to be honest, after April, the statistic will show you by sometime in mid-May that the bottom third of your roster has already been switched over once. Meaning, guys in your last 5 or 6 rounds, you probably dropped for something else. So really, a lot of people, those last 5 rounds, will take shots on guys who have good schedules early on in April. Or guys who are upside plays that they have no problem cutting bait with if it doesn't work out.
I mean, one of those guys for me was Dean Creamer, who's pitching on a great team.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Like when you're trying to deliberate between pitchers later on, I'm like, hey, let's take Creamer, who plays for the Baltimore Orioles and is going to be starting right in the middle of the rotation, maybe even near the top with John Means and Bradish, I don't want to say it wrong, Bradish, starting on the IL. So, and I've got 3 or maybe 4 players who are going to start the season on the IL, unfortunately. Only probably for a short time, hopefully. But I feel good about my ability to just work through that. Like, I wanted to make sure I had enough pitchers in the middle of the season, too, when things start heating up. So I agree with you, though, that sometimes one of the big challenges is to have like a functioning roster and a thorough roster on opening day. Some people are going to have a balanced roster then, and some people aren't. And that's a strategy thing, too. Like, sometimes it's like, okay, like, I got 2 bullpen arms who may not be ready for opening day, and that's it. So I'm just going to have to piece it together until then. Not piece it together, but actually there's guys out there right now on the market.
You brought up a good point. So April and May are
going to be part of my team.
April and May is the place to be piecing your rotation and your bullpen together.
That's right.
I think what you said earlier holds true. In fantasy baseball, you have hitters, then starting pitchers, then relief pitchers.
Right.
So, really, and even if you look at some of the best, pitching minds in the industry, Nick Pollock comes to mind, Lance Prespowski is another one. But those guys will tell you, you can find value in pitching all over the place, but you can't always find value in the hitting. So in the draft, you make sure you get your starting lineup of hitters, by and large, for the most part, set up. Mm-hmm. And then in April and May, you build your pitching staff and your bullpen.
Yeah.
Your starting rotation, your bullpen. I've not seen many people go wrong with that strategy because the goal shouldn't be to be in first place May 1st. The goal should be to be in first place September 1st and October 1st. So,
Yeah.
that being said,
There's something to be said for a hot start, but you're right. I mean,
the draft is just the start.
if you're getting ahead and playing from ahead, it's probably going to be because the first 2 months of the season you're strong.
Jay, in 2021 in the Fantasy Premier League, you were hovering around 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th place. You got your pitching rotation set up in July and August, and you were one of the hottest teams in that league, and you won the league that year.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't need to be in first place early on. You were in first place at the end. You have anything else you want to say before we wrap today's show up?
I don't know. I'm just looking through all these later rounds and just seeing what stands out. I mean, I definitely like all the talk that you've done about pitching over the last year or two. Like, it's really, a lot of it's starting to sink in, and so that permeated my draft strategy for sure. And even later on, like, I found guys like Christopher Sanchez that I'm like, oh,
that was
man,
a great value.
God, I hope this guy has a whip of like one.
That was a great value pick.
I mean, like, if that happens, and again, he's playing on a great team. That's the other thing. I'm like, okay, as we're getting late here, I got to choose between Baltimore Orioles and the Phillies or J.P. Sears from the A's, who's another guy. It's like, I had my eye on the guy because I think he's a good pitcher, but he's playing for the A's. So I just had to, make some of my decisions that way. So
we gonna podcast next Saturday?
I think so.
We doing outfield or starting pitching? What do you want to do?
I think probably we'll do an outfield still, and starting pitching is going to be like, because with starting pitching we're going to be right approaching opening day.
Yeah,
and
we may have to do something different.
There's some guys that we're going to have to talk about, like Brian Bayo might be the opening day starter for the Red
he
Sox.
just signed a big contract with them.
He's one of the two guys that might be the opening day starter for them. I think he probably will be. And, God, I really hope, too, for him that we see a step, like, back in the right direction, basically. Like, not that there wasn't anything wrong necessarily with, like, last season he put together a, like, full season. So there's something to be said just for that. You just want to see the ERA and the WHIP come down, and for him to execute pitches, and I think it's a very clear path. Like, I think there's a very real possibility that he does that he lowers his ERA by a run and has a good WHIP.
I agree.
Like, it might not happen, but if it does, man, I'm going to be in good shape.
If we had double play balls in this league, I like Brian Bayo a whole lot.
Seriously, I know.
Those ground ball pitchers really get boosted up with that. Anyways, that's a conversation for another day, Jay.
I don't know what to say about these last rounds. I mean, there's Ryan Mountcastle with pick 281. I don't think you're big on Mountcastle. I would have loved to have him.
When they moved the walls back in Camden, I
would have loved to have him that late. I would have loved to have picked Kenta Maeda as well, but I already had so many pitchers. He went 286. That's well beyond his ADP.
Oh, yeah.
That's 50 picks.
Again.
Or 50 to 60 picks after his ADP. So
guys were just taking their guys.
That's what I'm saying. They're just taking their guys. Right after him, Ricky Tiedemann went. And then right after that, I took John Means.
There you go.
I'm super happy about that. Max Scherzer went in round 20, which I know he's not going to be ready to pitch, early in the season. But Jonah Heim, I love Jonah Heim. I told Chad I love Jonah Heim, but, I already had a draft and a catcher well before that. Jordan Westburg. Did you have any interest in him going into the draft?
See, I had
Were
him
you considering
when he got called up last year? Only as a bench piece, but
him?
once I got Heimer Candelario, And I got Jordan Lawler. Like,
You picked Joel Piamps right after that, which I think is a good pick. I like him.
Yeah.
He was really good for me.
You were
in
resonating
past
in my
seasons.
mind when I took that pick. I was like, I had Abner Uribe queued up, but I was like, I think Milwaukee is going to give more more eighth inning opportunities
Piamps
to Piamps.
was the
And if anything
eighth
happens to
inning guy.
Williams, I think
Yeah.
in the short term,
Yeah.
Piamps will get a shot before Uribe does.
I would think so. He
But I mainly got him for the holes and
part of
his
his game,
ratios.
like he's kind of like, does he or does he not profile as a closer? I think it's very like it's like 50-50. Like part of him is like he's clutch. I think for the most part, he started to struggle at times, like just to keep his ratios down and everything. But he throws cheese, so. I'm just going through these last few rounds. It's just an exercise, and I always look and say, okay, when did I take these guys, and who went after them? Did I make a mistake? Should I have? And
I think when
really,
you get
as
late,
we're going
though,
through these last rounds, I mean, there's not much to say, but I like to see who everyone's last pick was too.
Let's end the show with this.
Seth
Who's
Lugo.
Mr. Irrelevant?
That was your last pick.
Yeah, I felt pretty good about that.
Heck yeah. That's a great 25th round pick. Are you kidding me?
I feel
Brendan
pretty good about
Rodgers,
him
I think, is a
staying on
great 25th round pick. Austin Meadows, I hope he comes back and is healthy and right. I'm rooting for him. I really want to see him.
Mental health awareness, it plays a major role.
And let's
in our lives.
not
And people,
and let's not I know you're not doing this. I'm just saying, let's not discount everything this guy's had to go through as an athlete.
yeah.
The COVID, the Achilles injuries, that is.
How about this? Now the fact that his younger brother is looking like the better player than him.
You know what? One of the things that helped me realize what happens to players, or what can happen to players, and how hard it is like. Well, here we are in Indiana, and I like to watch the Cubs, and I like to watch the Reds, and I also like to watch the White Sox. I like to watch the teams around here, even the Tigers to an extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Find myself rooting for them at times, late in the season or whatever it is. But, the Hawk, the famous announcer for the White Sox, he had a great baseball career. And he made me realize one day when he was talking on the air about what really hurt him in the end of his career was having to rehab from injuries. It'll break you, man. Can you imagine what it's really like to have to come back from Tommy John or a torn UCL, or a torn ligament in your knee, or a big muscle injury, or whatever it is, that it takes you out for months, even years, and to have to come back from it? Can you imagine what it feels like to be paid millions of dollars and not be able to play? Can you imagine how bad that would make you feel? How bad do you feel when you have to call in sick to work one day because you're sick and you can't go to work? I feel terrible.
Yeah, me too.
I cry real tears
Well,
when I can't.
But
Well, I'm just an emotional guy, but seriously, I'm put out, and I'm like, I'm feeling insecure, and I feel like I failed because I'm sick and I can't go to work. Can you imagine what it's like to rehab from injuries? These guys are warriors. These guys are tough mentally. So, anyways,
no,
I wish the best for him. I hope he has a great season,
and that's what we are
back out
as
on the field.
Fantasy baseball advocates.
That's right.
What
That's
better
who we are.
way to end our show than advocating for mental health and rehabbing from injuries as a professional athlete making millions of dollars?
It's hell, I'm sure.
Is something that's got to be help for them to go through.
It's a struggle, man.
And now I don't think we can get empathy from a lot of people who don't make millions of dollars, but at the same time,
I understand the sentiment. Oh, you make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But that's when fans, when we look from the outside in, I think you and we've been doing this long enough that we want to see it from the inside out. We want to know what it's really like on the field.
At the end of the
in
day,
the dugout.
to be right
in their head.
Mental health says, and I stand by this, every day is different. We should all try to be the best versions of ourselves that we can be each day. Some days we're going to fall short. Other days we're going to meet it.
Yeah, you just got.
And all
sometimes
you do,
you just got to go to bed.
if
and
you
wake
don't
up
make
the next
it,
morning
you go to
and
bed.
try.
You wake up the next day and
That's
you
right.
try again.
Yeah.
And all anybody should ever ask of you is your personal best.
Yeah.
That being said, Jay, for the 2024 baseball season, all I can ever wish upon you is your personal best each and every day.
You know what? I wish you the best. Good luck. And to heck with you and all the other teams. I'm going to win.
We'll see you guys next week.
Fantasy Forever League, guys, if we missed something really important about this year's draft and you want us to bring it up on the next podcast, please tell us. And anyone out there who's listening to this podcast, if you like what we're doing, give us a like on YouTube. Give us a favorite us, like us on Spotify.
Send us an email.
Our podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube.
And there's our email contact is on the Google on
Yeah. It's on our RSS feed. So if you guys have questions, comments, concerns, if you wanna talk to us, you can reach out to us
Just
at
go to-
fantasybaseballadvocates@gmail.com. So we're just building this from the ground up, guys. This is organic. This is our leagues. This is what we love to do. And in the next couple years, obviously, you're gonna see an evolution, a progression of this, and it's going to turn into much more than what it is now. But we want to give you guys some nuggets here of fantasy baseball truth and wisdom. And I hope we've done that for you viewers today. As we talk about our league. But you know what? This is very important to me. I want to say this lastly. And this is... not everyone shares this sentiment, I don't think, that's involved in fantasy sports. But you know what, Jason? I like to hear you talk about your team. I want to hear what you have to say about your team. I want to listen. And I think that's important. I think it's another important part of the therapy and the catharsis and the group mentality that we're building, the community that we're building right now with fantasy baseball. I like to hear you talk about your team. And I hope that you sometimes enjoy listening to me talk about my team.
I do.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way. I want to hear you talk about your team. And I want to hear everybody in the league talk about their team. I love to hear hits, misses, trades, missed opportunities. Where you think you are with your team. Where could you get better? That should be your first thing, too, when you're going to everyone like, hey, where do you think you could get better, right? Because you're looking for trade prospects and someone that you might line up with for trades. When you're in 16-team league, some teams, there's no real trade potential between you and this other team. But there's 3, 4, 5, 6 teams out there that there's trade potential between your two clubs, and you can see it. And you should talk to the other owner about it and be like, hey, where do you think you could get better? What are your needs? I've learned I should start with asking them, where do you think you could get better? Where are your needs versus mine? Versus leading with this is what I want, this is what I need. I tell people when I'm interested in their players, and I think that's important too. Just be open and honest. Amen.
I like that.
It makes them feel good. I love you got a
good because everybody
player.
likes to talk about themselves.
The opposite would be when you come to someone with an idea or a tentative offer, and they're like, nah, I don't like that. Your player's trash. Jake Funkhauser. There's different ways
there's
to
some gamesmanship to that, too. Just maybe they do like it, but they want to...
Jake, just kiss my ass a little bit more. Just tell me how good my team is. When we come to do trade talks,
for our own mental health, I
teams.
think we're going to sign out here. This is the Fantasy Baseball Advocates.
Be well, guys.
Be well.